You're listening to the Love Unplugged podcast, episode 50. Are you wanting to start a blog, but maybe you just don't know exactly what you want it to be about? Perhaps you have a side hustle and a full-time job and you're struggling to stay creative and organized to stay consistent with content posting. Or maybe you feel ready to take that leap and turn your side hustle into a full-time job. Well, today's episode is for you. My guest started a blog and turned it into a full-time successful business, and she is sharing her own journey and advice. So grab yourself a cup of organic tea and let's dive on in. You are listening to Love Unplugged, a podcast focused on love in all its forms. I'm your host, Jessica Frigon, hopeful romantic and founder of Project Love. I found that too often love is set aside or taken for granted, and we tend to forget how to care for ourselves and our important relationships in the day-to-day chaos. So let's slow down, tune in, and begin our journey of rediscovering love. From honest heart-to-heart conversations with real couples and knowledgeable guests to deep dive reviews of new products and services that will help you feel beautiful inside and out. If you're looking for relatable advice or wanting to be inspired by real-life love stories, you've come to the right place. Without further ado, let's get to it. Hello, loves. Today we are joined by the lovely Sydney Sophias, creative force and founder of The Working Girl, a blog dedicated to sharing personal experiences, everyday style and beauty, product recommendations, quick and easy recipes, and simple ways to refresh your space, all of which is done realistically and with attainable approach so that you can also bring it into your life as well. So welcome, Sydney. I am so honored to have you as my guest, and I'm so excited to learn all about your story and advice. But before we start, for those that don't know you yet, I would love for you to share a little bit about who you are.
Thanks so much for having me. Hi, guys. I'm Sydney, and I'm the founder and creator of theworkinggirl.ca, which, as you already mentioned, is kind of a lifestyle blog. I go over things like sharing lots of personal experiences. We talk skincare, beauty, blogging, career stuff, a little bit of everything. And it's super blog. Fun. Thank you.
Awesome. So let's go back in time a little bit. How did your passion for blogging become?
You know what? It kind of fell into my lap.
Really?
This was way back. So I first started a blog. I had no idea what it was while I was doing my business degree. I was in second year. The degree that I did was heavily focused in social media. So we were asked to start a blog on WordPress. They have like free templates for students. So that's what I did. And then I was completing schooling and I had different requirements for that blog, but it was nothing really. It was really just to showcase your writing and how you're distributing that message across multiple platforms. Mm-hmm. And then I kind of left it on the back burner. I graduated. I worked all throughout my university. I always was working and then going to school at night. And then after I graduated, I got hired on by an advertising agency here in Vancouver, which was very, very exciting. And about 6 months in, I kind of just realized that there was something that wasn't sitting right. Like, I loved my job. The people that I worked with were amazing. I loved advertising. I loved working in an agency and being in a creative environment. But for me, there was just like something I could feel within me that wasn't being satisfied, I guess. Mm-hmm. So what I did was, my whole thing, I think my whole life has just been to try and set myself up for success. So while I was working at the agency, I went back to that blog that I had started in university. And I decided to kind of play around with it. I decided I wanted to rebrand it and call it theworkinggirl.ca. I got one of my girlfriends to help me create a logo, which is what you see now. And yeah, we did some design tweaks and then I launched that in 2014. So that's kind of what that was. And I'm sure we'll get more in depth as to like why I was doing that. I feel like you have more questions on that. So before I deep dive into that.
Okay, so what was the original blog called?
The original blog while I was in school was actually called The Must Have Maven.
The Must Have Maven.
Which kills me now thinking back. But if you go back to like the first page of my blog, even to this day, it's a lot of like shopping collages. Like I said, this was about 2011, 2012, I think, because I graduated 2013. So there wasn't huge bloggers.
No.
There was like Amber Filler up in Arizona. There was a couple in New York, a couple maybe in LA. And that was really it. But this wasn't like a career thing at that time. This was just something that people did for inspiration on the side. And that's kind of what I was doing. So what I was doing was unknowingly setting the foundation for the rest of my career. But at the time, it was just kind of to serve me as like a visual portfolio that I could use to kind of take to other companies if I wanted to get a different job outside of this advertising job that I felt like there was something missing.
Yeah. How did you land on the topics, the content that you were going to start sharing? Like, how did you decide that you're going to start sharing about work and like beauty and fashion and all those things? Like, how did you land on that?
I had no idea.
No?
I literally had no plan, no idea what I was doing. I just was having fun with it. It was a visual thing. I'm such a visual person. I'm very creative. I love to shop. I know what I like. And so I was just kind of putting together things that I enjoyed anyways, outside of working a really demanding job. And then as I started to go, I started to gain some traction in Vancouver. I started to get emails from brands wanting to pay me to promote product for them and so forth. And so that's kind of when I was like, hang on a second, like you can make money doing this. And then I was seeing other girls in other cities starting to kind of work with brands, and being in the advertising world, that was really appealing. So it was just like, I had no idea what I was doing. There was no plan. There was no nothing. There was no money behind it. Like to this day, I'm building a new website right now, which is costing me an arm and a leg, but it'll be way worth it. But for the last 7 years, that's the template that I used, was the free template. People always ask me like, what do I do? How much do I need to start? Blah, 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 blah. But you really don't really need anything. Everything is free. You just got to work with it and figure it out. For me, I think I was trying to figure out what I wanted to talk about and what was resonating with me. What was my writing style? Like there's so many things that go into the blog that people don't realize that it takes a lot of time to figure it out.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely in that stage right now with like a small pivot that I'm doing, and I'm just trying to figure out exactly the messaging, the words that I'm going to consistently use. And it's a practice. That's what you need to work on.
Yeah.
Forget about the website and getting that all perfect. You can get that template for free, just like you did.
For free. And you can figure it out as you go. As you keep doing things, you'll figure out your style. You'll figure out your approach. You'll figure out how you want your images to look. And it's like any other job. The more you do, the more you're going to learn, the more you're going to grow, the better you're going to get. And this is no different.
So let's talk about this pull that you were experiencing when you were working in that advertising company. Was that always there, or did it just gradually increase? And then what did you do when you started to feel like, okay, maybe this isn't for me? Like, how did you find your way back to that blog?
I've always been a very career-minded person, and I've always been somebody who's like climbing some sort of a ladder. Corporate ladder has always been kind of appealing to me growing up for whatever reason. And when I was working there and started to spend a lot more time there, the positions that I wanted to be at the end of the day, I was just seeing like their lifestyles, and that really wasn't aligning with what's important to me. I'm married. We've been married for 5 years. We've been together for 12. Like, we would like to have a family at some point, no rush or pressure there. But I was just seeing like what my bosses weren't able to do in their life, and that was not appealing. I want to be there to make dinner. I want to like be there to be with my family. And so I don't know, something just kind of switched for me, and I was like, maybe this is not the right avenue. And I had no idea what that was going to look like. I honestly just thought, I'll just stick around. I'll give it a good fair shot. I was there almost 3 years. And then maybe I will shop around and see what other opportunities are out there for me. But I didn't really think that I would be working for myself. So it was kind of at the point where my first brand opportunity that came to me when I was working there was through Happy Planet. And like I said before, like, when the light bulb went off that people would pay me to talk about certain things or to share certain things with my audience, that was really appealing to me. And then just being able to have that creative freedom and moving along the years, starting to see other women in other cities doing big things and like launching their own lines now and doing all these things. And I just saw an opportunity. And so I kind of just went for it.
Okay. So did you like literally just quit your job and then go? Or was this like working 9 to 5 and then having a side hustle that you were starting to build at the same time?
Yeah, I definitely had a side hustle for quite a while. Like I said, I think it was only there for like 6 months when I kind of figured out that this might not be like a full long-term thing for me. So that's when I started blogging, and then I left just under 3 years. So that was like a pretty good chunk of time. But at the same time, I was in the advertising field, so I felt like there was so much to learn on that end that has now been super beneficial to me because I don't have an assistant. I don't have a manager. It's me. I'm the one who pitches my projects. I'm the one who handles all my contracts and all of that negotiating. So I feel like the experience that I had there, being on an account team and representing these huge multi-million-dollar brands and being client facing was it was kind of an advantage.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So how do you juggle that? How did you balance the two in some kind of a way? Because I know balance isn't a great word.
It's tricky. It's not easy, but I feel like I've always had to balance many things at the same time anyways. Even when I was doing my degree, I was always working. I've had a job since I was 14. One time, I think in my third year of university, I had 3 jobs because my husband and I were trying to move out desperately. And like, so you know what? That's just life. And like everyone's situation is different. I feel like you just have to kind of like look at what you need to get done and do it, and then figure out how you can get ahead with what you want to do outside of that time. So you're getting the most out of everything, but everything is a lesson, I just feel like. And there was many, many years where I was like, felt like I was hitting my head against the wall, just like feeling like school was never going to end, feeling like I wasn't going to get ahead. I didn't really know what I was going to do. I knew the direction, but I didn't know how to get there. And I feel like everyone's journey is kind of like that at one point or another. So you just kind of have to do what you can with what you have now. And then at some point you can make the switch. So for me, to answer your question, finally, I kind of had a plan, but to be honest, I really didn't. The only real thing that I feel like I did was I tried to put a little bit of savings away just to have as like a float. Because as you know, this industry can be very like hit or miss. Some months are really crazy busy and you're making a lot of money. Some months you don't make any money at all. It just depends. Luckily though, I feel like the reason why I was able to make that jump was because of the support I had from people like my husband, from my grandpa, who was a huge mentor to me. He was the one that really was like, you know what, I feel like you could make more money doing this on your own than working there. So why don't you just do it? And I was like, really? I don't know. Luckily, my husband was really on board, super supportive, even though he had no idea. Like no one really, even myself, had no idea what I was doing. But I feel like having a supportive, like a few supportive people behind you really helps make it less scary.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately you have to jump.
How did you organize yourself so that you were able to, give 100% to that side hustle to keep the momentum going until you were able to take that leap?
I think it just comes down to really being passionate about it. Because like there's no shortcut, and like the time, you have to spend the time. The time has to be spent because like we were saying, it takes the time to figure out what is my voice, what is my aesthetic, what colors do I like? Like it takes time to figure all that out. So you kind of have to like expect that you need to put in that time.
Enjoy the process.
Yeah. And trust the process, because as grueling as it is, it's there for a reason. And I know not a lot, but I know a handful of girls, even in Vancouver, who kind of exploded when they came out. And I feel like for me, that used to frustrate me a lot because this is year 7 for me. And if I was going just off of numbers on Instagram, I might be kind of discouraged. But I think there's a place for everyone, and you just kind of have to figure out where your place is.
It's crazy that you would feel like that, because I look at you and I'm like, wow, she's like super successful. But even those that you may think are super successful still have those feelings.
100%.
Right? Which it's just natural when you're looking at other people on Instagram.
I think that's why it's important not to look at other people.
Yes.
It also just comes down to your perspective. Because like me, I could look at my Instagram following and be super devastated that I'm 7 years in and I don't have 100,000 followers. I have like 20,000 amazing followers, and that is my community. Those are my people. And I think for a while, like I said, that was really kind of upsetting because I felt like I was putting all this time and energy into it. But if you think about it, one day I was like, 20,000 people isn't that many people. And then I really thought about it and I was like, 20,000 people fits into Rogers Arena, which is like where all the concerts are held. If you're not in Vancouver, you're not familiar. So when you're standing in the stadium looking around and that stadium fills 20,000 people and those 20,000 people are checking in with you every day and listening to every word that you're saying, that's pretty powerful. So I think it ultimately comes down to like, what is success for you? Success for me is not my follower count on Instagram. Success is like the community that I'm building, the business that I'm building, even outside of sponsorships. So I do like a lot of capsule collections. I don't know if you've seen. Mm-hmm. I do like other things that hopefully will live a little bit longer than just Instagram.
Yeah. Quality over quantity.
For sure. 100%.
I love that. So when you quit your day job, were you scared?
100%.
How did you deal with the fear? Like, I think a lot of people, even me, when it comes to that point of eventually wanting to quit the day job or even the night job, that fear of like, shoot, okay, now it's really on me. I am 100% driving the salary or the income that I am bringing in. And if I'm not able to show up or something goes wrong or whatever, it's now completely me. Mm-hmm. Right? So how do you do that? How do you make that jump?
I feel like that's what people refer to as mental toughness. But honestly, because it is scary, it's scary for everyone, but you have to just kind of jump and trust the process. And I think that fear is probably why a lot of people don't start. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, like if I'm not making money, if I'm not working, I'm not making money. So I need to hustle and I need to figure it out. And it's just been years of me figuring it out. And now it's finally starting to pay off, but it does take a long time.
Did you have any mentors or anything like that helping you along the way? Did you have like a community of like women that were also doing it that you guys were bouncing each other, like ideas off of each other and like supporting each other? No.
I would say it's hard because I don't know. Vancouver's a weird community.
It's very cliquey here, I find.
It is. Where are you from originally?
Ooh, I'm from South Surrey,
but you're Vancouver, right?
Basically.
Yeah. It's weird. I feel like it's gotten better. But I feel like people were very closed off for a while there. So definitely no to like the women mentors. Now it's changed. I don't know if maybe it's because I've been in the game for so long or I don't know. But luckily I've always had mentorship in other areas of my life. Like at school, I always had mentors who were teachers who still keep in touch with me. I still do a lot of speaking at universities and high schools and things like that. Like I said, my grandpa was a huge mentor to me. He was a land developer and a really successful business person and just like such a wise, smart person. So he really encouraged me to just take a leap of faith. And like, if it didn't work out, like what's the worst that's going to happen? I've gone to school. I've done my experience. I had that to fall back on. So like while I think that school is important, I don't think it's the end all be all, but it is nice to have that in your back pocket in case things don't work out. Mm-hmm. But I feel like they will work out if you want them to work out bad enough. You'll figure it out,
You'll figure it out. It's so true. So what did you struggle with most when you were starting this blog? Was it, negative self-talk? Was it fears? Was it insecurities? Like what exactly was your biggest obstacles to overcome?
Mm-hmm. I think in the beginning, it wasn't as bad. I didn't really realize how much I needed to figure out, I think. I think the challenges for me came later on, actually like in the last 4 years, I would say. Just through going through a lot of personal hardships and like family stuff and grief and things like that. Those challenges I feel like were super tough for me because that impacted how I felt. And thus, I couldn't be myself online, if that makes sense. so that's kind of at the point where my blog sort of started to shift more into like wellness, talking more mindset stuff, more fitness stuff, things that were helping me feel better and get through those times. And to also set myself up for like success within the days and the weeks, because when you work for yourself, especially when you work at home, I'm sure you can attest to this, it's kind of a weird thing because you're in your environment all day long. You're not really with anyone unless like you go outside of your space. It's like a weird thing.
Because, I mean, I struggle. I mean, I've set up my space to kind of be able to stay inspired. Because otherwise I'm like doing it from my bed or my couch, and then I'll put Netflix on or I'll put music on, and then I get distracted. It's completely different than going to an actual space like an office outside of your home and being surrounded by people. Because then that energy kind of keeps you going throughout the day. But when you're alone,
it's weird. All the time like blends together. So that's kind of where too I've just developed really strong habits over time. Again, they've been such a practice, but just like creating different routines and habits throughout the day that kind of help me separate my day and help me be more effective throughout the day, I would say.
So I want to know what those habits are. Give us the juice.
Just a lot of wellness habits. Like I said, I need to feel my best. If I'm not feeling my best, then I'm not able to be good for anything to anyone. So for me, because like this job is not your typical 9 to 5. I just feel like I had to create some sort of routine in the morning where I can kind of get my mind right and feel really great before I start my day. So whether that's like getting up and taking my dog for a walk, having coffee, reading. I always read for like 15 minutes while I have my coffee. I read like all mindset, business, philosophy books. The mind is so fascinating to me. Like, it's pretty insane. Wild. Yeah. So I actually have a whole book list if you guys wanted to get into it.
Is it on your blog?
It's on my blog.
Okay, so
it's a huge book list, and they're amazing books, all of which have given me tools and helped me kind of just get deeper into this and like this whole thing. Yeah. So reading's been great. Walking my dog outside, just getting fresh air. I'm somebody who needs to be like in nature. I kind of, I need to like have some clarity. And what else do? I take my skincare very seriously. I have my skincare routine I do in the morning. I do a workout in the morning. And then I feel like after that, I have my collagen water, and then I can kind of sit at my desk and start my day. Wow. But those habits, I know it sounds like a lot, but it's just become what I need to do.
That's what you need to do. So how do you stay inspired and creative? Working from home, getting caught up in sometimes the business aspects of running your blog, which is sometimes very dry and not inspiring or creative in any way. Yeah. So how do you stay creative? Aside from all your vision
it's something
boards,
I know. You mean look around. I don't know. I feel like it's something I don't really try to do, to be honest. I definitely have days where I don't feel creative, and those I've kind of just realized that I have certain patterns of behavior that happen that are caused by certain things. And I've kind of just learned to identify what those are and to have little habits in my back pocket, like going for a walk with my dog, or reading for a few minutes, or writing down a few notes in this journal that I have called the 5-Minute Journal.
Yes.
Doing stuff like that really helps to kind of like backtrack and just get my mind right again. Obviously, there's days where like you feel down, you don't feel like doing anything. And I've kind of learned that I just need to accept that I'm feeling that way that day, and maybe just like take a rain check and not be so hard on myself. Because while all these things are great, and while they can sound like it's an all or nothing sort of thing, and that's not my approach at all. It's more like find what works for you and just learn to like trust your feelings and be really kind to yourself and just do what you need.
I agree. So I know that, running a business is a lot of work.
Yeah.
I'm not even like scratching the surface. But
I feel like I'm not scratching the surface.
It's
either.
insane. Like all the hats you have to wear and just like juggling all the responsibilities and staying on top of everything and whatnot. And you're always having to make sure that you're focusing on tasks that are moving that needle forward in your business and not staying stagnant in any way. So have you ever experienced any kind of burnout or exhaustion or just, where you just needed to take time for yourself and step away? Or, what was that experience
100%. Like I was saying, the last few years have been rough. I lost a few people that were really close to me, like extremely close to me, like right next to me. And that was really, really, really tough. I've never felt so low ever. So that's hard because being in a creative career, you are expected to remain that way. And so when you don't feel that and you don't feel inspired and you don't have any motivation in those types of scenarios, it can be really tough. And like I said, I just kind of learned that I need to take care of myself because at the end of the day, that's the only person who's going to really look out for me. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of how all those little habits came to be, was through all these tough times. Yeah.
So I want to know what self-love means to you. And I know your practice of, self-care and whatnot in the mornings, but do you have any other practices that kind of deal with deep inner work?
So that's kind of why, I've always been athletic. I've always enjoyed working out and being active, but the fitness part of what I write about on the blog came to be from going through hard times, and literally just like trying to get to the gym for the day was like therapy for me. It's just what I needed to kind of heal myself. I feel like that was a big one. Working out for me is like a very big deal. And now it's kind of a non-negotiable. I have 3 workouts a week. I have to make them one way or another. It doesn't matter how busy I am. They have to happen, because if they don't happen, they are like the domino effect for other things in my life. And I just find that when I'm not doing that one thing, it just affects so many other things. Like when I'm not working out, I'm not drinking as much water, I'm not sleeping as well, I'm not maybe not making as good of decisions eating wise. It kind of affects a lot of things. So for me personally, that's like one huge way that I show myself self-love. And then other things throughout the day or the week, running myself a bath or doing eye patches or taking care of my skin or just eating properly. I feel like these are all things, especially when you're working for yourself, that are really easy to just kind of like push to the side. And I've just learned over the years that these things cannot fall by the wayside, because if they do, then the dominoes start falling and it's just not a good thing. So self-love is so crucial. And a huge part of what I write about now, because the working girl has really evolved into working every day to become the best version of yourself and whatever that feels like for you.
Yeah, because it's a different journey for everybody.
Different. Everybody's different.
Self-love means something different to every single person.
Totally.
I love that. So I want to thank you very much for taking the time today.
Of course.
And by thanking you, I would like to give you this little gift.
Aww.
So this is from one of my favorite local companies. I'm a huge tea lover. Like,
oh my God,
huge.
So am I.
Love tea. This is going to be perfect then. So it's Wosh Wellness. And she has certified organic teas, loose leaf, because obviously putting them in tea bags these days is not great.
Amazing.
But they're all geared towards like a condition or something that you're wanting to alleviate. So they have lots of different ones like Digest and Revive. But I got you Immunity just because of what's going on in the world today. And then I think I got you Think as well, which I think that's what it is.
I love her packaging.
Yeah,
so
it's
cute.
Awesome. But Think is probably the best tea I've had to give me just that perfect amount of caffeine boost that I need in the afternoon without giving me the jitters. Because I am super sensitive to caffeine.
Are you?
So I definitely recommend that one. It's so good.
Amazing.
Yes, I hope you enjoy them.
Thank you so much.
And if you do love them, then there's a 15% off. Use the code PROJECTLOVE. So that's available to you as well. And anybody listening as well can use that.
Yay, I can't wait to try that. Thank you. That's so sweet of you.
Awesome. So I have some questions from the community.
Okay.
They want to get personal with you. So what did you eat for breakfast this morning?
every morning I have the same thing. My husband makes us a protein smoothie, tons of goodies in it.
Ooh, what's
Peanut
in it?
butter and oats and spinach and kale and
That sounds
all
packed.
kinds of things. Yeah.
Packed
It's
with nutrition.
Very, very good.
It's good. What do you love most about being a business owner?
Probably being able to call all shots. And I think the biggest thing for me is just creating something literally out of thin air that you've created that you can look at and just be so proud of. It's just such a nice feeling. So that is amazing. And also just building my community. I love my community. I'm obsessed with them. And I feel like over the years, as I've kind of been more raw and like opened up to them, they've been really reciprocate. Can I talk? Yeah, they've really been amazing, and we go back and forth, and I become friends with so many of them, and so that's really cool. And I probably wouldn't have had that if I had stayed in like a normal 9-to-5 job.
I feel like having this social media world like
Mhm.
involved in your business, you get to meet all these really crazy, awesome people that you normally probably wouldn't have come across or even had the opportunity to connect with in everyday life.
It's so cool. And like building our capsule collections, we did a jewelry line in October.
Yeah.
And that was really cool to go back and forth with my community about like what they wanted to see, what kind of metals, what kind of, do they like gold, do they like silver, do they like long necklaces, do they want bracelets? Like it's really cool to have that feedback like right at your fingertips.
Mhm.
And I love that. It's so
That's
cool.
awesome. So where is your favorite place to shop?
Okay. Well, about 90% of my wardrobe, as you might know, is from Aritzia. I love Aritzia. It's
Yes.
Vancouver. It's Vancouver based, and now they're in the States and they're doing so well. I just love their stuff. Such good quality, and it's really nice.
It is. It's very unique.
It's like basic, but a little bit elevated, which I
Mhm.
love.
I agree. So in starting your business, what is something you would do differently knowing everything that you know now?
Oh God. You know what? I want to say that I wouldn't do anything differently because I feel like anytime I failed, it was meant to fail because it was meant to learn something from that failure. And I feel like had it been easier, I might not be where I'm at now, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, like when you rise to the top really, really quickly, you lose a lot of lessons because you weren't forced to learn that. So maybe later it's at a disadvantage to you. But I feel like in life in general, I've kind of have to like wait for things, and it's always worked out like a million times better. So I would say that I don't think I would have done anything differently. No.
Just enjoy the process.
Just enjoy
be
the
patient.
process and trust the timing of everything because it's meant for a reason.
Exactly. I love that.
Not to get too philosophical on you, but
No, it's perfect. So if anybody wants to learn more about you, where can they connect with you?
so you can reach me on Instagram at theworkinggirl.ca, and that is the handle or the URL for my blog as well.
Awesome. So thank you so much, Sydney, for being my guest and for sharing your experience and advice. I know many are going to be able to relate to your story and apply the takeaways from this episode in their lives.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm Jessica, and thanks for tuning in today to Love Unplugged, the podcast. If there are any questions or topics you'd love answered on the show, head on over to www.projectloveco.com and share your request with me. If you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review this podcast and share it with a loved one. Your feedback means the world to me, and the community we've created is what fuels our discussions here. After all, this is all for you. Join me next time for another unplugged conversation.